14 years in the legislature, and I got to tell you, I like anyone that puts something out there that forces people to talk about it and has a strong opinion on whether or not potentially this is going to happen, and whether or not the state should either get ahead of it or get behind it. And Matt is doing just that. He's a state representative out of Minot, North Dakota. Let's visit with him. Representative Ruby, good to have you coming down the road with us.
I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Your legislation says that adults over 21 can partake in personal use of marijuana. Does it not? Or what does that legislation do?
So we're just essentially what you said. We're legalizing recreational marijuana for adult use in their private residencies and stuff like that. It's pretty restricted still compared to some of the other states, and that's really what we wanted to do is get something tailored to North Dakota. So it's kind of expansion of our medical program as far as who can sell and who can grow. There is a home grow provision in it for 3 plants per adult. It's like I said, it's limited to personal residency and stuff like that, personal property. So
does it allow the sale of it here in North Dakota? And if it does, how does it make that happen? Is it very controlled? Is it open in terms of just capitalism, the free market, or how do you deal with it?
So if you grow 3, the 3 plants that are allowed for personal use, that is for personal use. You can't sell that. So if you want to be able to purchase it somewhere, we do expand the dispensaries and the grow facilities that we have set up for the medical program. We do open up that. I don't remember off the top of my head. I can look. I've got the language here in a bit, but you'll be able to buy it at the dispensary that are already set up, and that's kind of the whole point of it is. We want to kind of kill that black market. The perk of going through a dispensary is that quality control, and it's tested from seed to sale, and then convenience. It takes a lot of work to grow a plant, from what I'm told, and so it's just being able to go and buy some and roll it yourself.
Does this allow you in states where, let's use Colorado as the example, does this allow you to buy marijuana in Colorado, transport it to North Dakota, or for that matter, have it shipped to you in North Dakota?
No, it's to cross state lines. It's still a federal felony. As far as shipping, I don't know if that's even anything that's set up, infrastructure that's set up. I don't think that's going to be governed by the feds, and we can't really touch what others bring in stuff across state lines. So
okay, but the reason I ask it is because the feds have pretty much said to people that look, we're not going to enforce this. We're not going to it's basically happening anyway. We're just going to look the other way when it comes to it. And so that's why I'm asking about transporting it. That's not something that North Dakota then and their law enforcement is going to put their efforts towards. That's what I'm asking.
Yep. No, and so you can't go and buy a bunch of it and bring it back here to sell. If it's being sold from the dispensary in North Dakota, it was grown in a grow facility in North Dakota.
Okay. You mentioned 3 plants. I don't think either one of us are experts when it comes to how much marijuana you can get off 3 plants. Is 3 plants enough to make sure that the person that's using recreational marijuana on their own in their home will have enough marijuana to be able to use?
We believe so. There's if you look at other states that have the home grow provision, this would be the most restrictive still. The next most open is I can't remember which state it is, but they allow 6 plants per adult. All I can tell you is that it varies on strain, stuff like that, but it's around a pound if I'm correct, and that I'm not even exactly 100% certain that that's the amount. The people that are involved in this that help draft or kind of work off of the 1420 from last session, which is where we started with, they felt 3 was adequate.
Okay. So Representative Ruby, when it comes to, basically people are going around with petitions again, and they're going to make recreational marijuana legal in North Dakota. Is this getting ahead of that? Because it's my understanding that recreational marijuana in North Dakota, the initiative that's going to be pushed forward, no longer goes backwards in regards to what the individuals who have been prosecuted for it have done, but it goes forward in a sense where it pretty well opens it up. And so I have to ask you, is this legislation intended to get ahead of that initiated measure?
To an extent, yeah. And when you talk to somebody about this that is definitely against even the idea of having recreational marijuana, they always say we don't want to end up like Colorado. There's a lot of factors of why I don't believe that we'll end up like that. Mainly, they were the first state and had a lot of people moving in. I don't see that happening here. But big difference between the other measure that is being kind of floated around is this meshes well with Century Code. This has been reviewed by Legislative Council. And so we did want to get something that was tailored to North Dakota, actually works with our laws now, and takes care of concerns of people that don't necessarily don't believe in the ability to have recreational marijuana, but it at least gets them understanding that there is going to be at some point some sort of legalization, and this is at least on our terms as a state.
Well, and it seems to me there's a recognition that it's already going on. You know, is this a provision where there's a tax structure? If you're growing it at home, I doubt there's a means to be able to collect any tax on it. And so if you're using dispensers, is there a revenue source there? And has there been an estimate given by Legislative Council as you draft this legislation of what money it can bring in to North Dakota?
So in this measure, we didn't touch the tax structure. Last session, when we had 1420, there was a sister bill that dealt with the tax, and I don't remember off the top of my head. I got to go back and look at it, but I want to say it was about 15% at. It was taxed at two places, if I remember correctly. It was taxed at the sales from the grow facility to the dispensary, and then it was taxed again at the dispensary. So with this measure alone, it would just be the 7% sales tax and whatever from the state, and then whatever the local municipalities have. But we do anticipate and would are in support of having some sort of, I'm thinking around a 15% tax between the two grow facility and the sales for, and that would either go into general funds or something like that. But it's tough to determine what to expect because I don't think that anybody that I've been talking to really feels that we're going to have this huge amount of people moving here to use. So it'll be just determining who is going to go for that convenience of being able to buy it at a dispensary rather than having to grow it themselves. So there's definitely a possibility. I have no idea what the number would be, though.
Okay. So, you and I both know what's going on now, and this is a recognition of that. How do you basically enforce or look at dealing with the 3 plants per household, to get into that individual's household? Is this a neighbor saying, look, I think he's growing more pot than what he's entitled to do, and law enforcement goes in? Are they going to have to get a warrant? I mean, how do you go about enforcing this, or is this just a means of trying to make sure that it's curtailed?
I think it's a lot more to do with the curtailing. Our next step is actually to reach out with law enforcement to see how they would potentially police that. I don't have an answer for that, but really we're just trying to get this where we get a quality product that we know isn't being laced with anything or something like that. So and that out to the public, and hopefully we can curtail that black market a little bit.
Well, and in fairness to you, that's what the legislative process is about. That's hearings. Mm-hmm. Law enforcement can come. And have you spoke to the Attorney General? Have you spoke to Drew Wrigley about this?
I haven't. I'm actually in Bismarck right now. I was hoping to talk to him either this week or next week and get a feel from him. The first people we talked to was actually Greater North Dakota Chamber to get a feel for theirs because they led the charge against the last measure that was on the ballot, and that was a lot of just took away a lot of businesses' abilities to regulate it within their own employees, and we included protections for the employers that seem to they were amendments actually from 1420 that they requested, and we put that into this measure, and they seem pretty happy with it. I'm not going to say that they're not going to, or that they're going to be in favor, or they're not going to have some sort of opposition. I'm just saying from our first conversation with them, they seem pretty okay with what we've done, or pretty happy with that inclusion.
Matt, a lot of what we spoke about in this interview has been the motivation, getting out ahead of it, whether or not taxes, those kind of questions. You knew I was going to have to ask you the question I've got to ask you, which is about motivation. Do you partake in the use of marijuana?
No, me personally, no. I'm a 12-year veteran of the military, still enlisted, God willing, I'll be able to do 20. I'm actually the guy that does the drug testing for my unit. I drive a CDL truck on the civilian side, not even in my purview. I've worked in the legislature on some of the medical programs and trying to make that, or on our medical program, trying to make that a little bit better, a little bit more accessible for specifically veterans. I've got a couple of different friends that are struggling with PTSD and physical injuries from their time in the military, and it has been a hassle getting the VA to even acknowledge the use or the potential use. Nobody's saying that it's curing anything, but there's definitely pain management and some other things that marijuana can help with. So a big part of my wanting to get involved is to be able to open this up for those people that I know specifically and other constituents across the state that are really looking for some sort of a alternative to pharmaceuticals and the medical program for whatever reason, whether it's not getting a doctor to sign off on it or whatever. Is struggling to get that. So
well, and in fairness to the audience out there, I've followed your legislative career, and it's safe to say that you're rock solid conservative, and that usually doesn't go along with a piece of legislation like this. And I think people need to know that, or at least hear you respond to it.
Just how I maintain a conservative belief.
Right. Exactly. How a conservative like yourself can get to a piece of legislation like this.
Well, the easy answer is personal responsibility. Whether I believe that I should, or whether I believe I want to do something or not, shouldn't force my vote onto. Or my vote shouldn't force that same behavior on somebody else. So,
okay.
I think that's how I'd have to answer that. Is I don't. I do that same thing. I'm personally very Catholic, but I don't let my faith direct my vote because there's other people that aren't following that same belief system. So I'm just not going to do that. So I believe in that limited government and personal responsibility, and that's how I justify this.
Fair enough. Thanks for taking the interview, Representative Ruby.
I appreciate you having us on.